Welcome wherever you are. Wherever you are watching from, I want to welcome you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you. Thank you very much once again. I am Pastor Maxwell Nawuhe. I'm welcoming you to this very segment of our broadcast today. Bola Ahmed Tinubu speaks to the African leaders. Tinubu to African leaders: engage in strategic efforts to address mass exodus of African talents. Engage in strategic efforts. Engage in strategic efforts to address mass exodus of African talents. The president of Nigeria has spoken to the African leaders, and he is one of the leaders of one of the African countries, the president of Nigeria, which is adjudged as the most populous black nation on earth, the most populous black country, or precisely in Africa. And he is the chairman of ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. He is the chairman. He has decided to speak to his fellow African leaders to engage in strategic efforts to address mass exodus of African talents. African talent talks about the prosperity, ingenuity, the potential of the African people, or the African youths, or the African citizens in different fields, be it in sport, in entertainment, in lifestyle, in engineering, in politics, in business, in career, in inventions, in science, etc. He has spoken to the African leaders to engage, not to shy away from, not to trivialize the importance and the need to make sure that the African talents that are exiting the continent en masse to Europe, to Asia, to America, that they address it strategically strategically, because every potential seeks expression. Every potential seeks expression. A man that is highly gifted or a woman that is highly gifted who has developed himself or herself, who has developed his talent to its very, very important stage of influence or achievement or result, need to express it. So the African leaders have been enjoined to address it strategically. African talents are being exported to European countries, and those countries are benefiting from the African talents. African talents in America. America is benefiting from the African talents. Asia is benefiting from the African talents. Whereas the continent from where these talents were harnessed or developed are lagging behind among the Committee of Nations. The president of Nigeria has spoken to the African leaders. Engage in strategic efforts to address mass exodus of African talent. I wish this will start from him. Most of the African talent protested about, I think that should be either 5 days ago or 10 days ago. Many of you are aware of the End Bad Governance protest, nationwide protest across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Youths took to the streets in different states of the country, different capitals of the states, different regions of the country, and protest. In protest, just like the NSAS protest in 2020, which was targeting to end police or army brutality or different kind of brutality coming from different security agencies, which are agents of the government. The NSAS protest actually ended without achieving its core objective. The End Bad Governance protest has ended. What are the achievements? That is not my concern and the objective of this broadcast today. But this very statement that is coming from the president of Nigeria, I was trying to say that these same African talents that he was urging and charging his fellow African leaders to stop from their exodus, from their exit from this continent, the same talents were protesting in the streets of Nigeria in the End Bad Governance, which actually the hardship that the masses, including the talent of Africans in this part of the sub-Saharan Africa, are facing currently as a result of the bad policies of the Tinubu-led federal government. What has it done to address it from his own end as the leader or the president of the most populous black country in this part of the world? As the president of Nigeria, what has the president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, done in order to address strategically, in his own words, strategically, the exodus of the African talent from Nigeria? What has the president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, done strategically, not in despise, not in trying to Milocon syndrome, to play it to its fullest, to his own personal or parochial interest or advantage? What has he done strategically in terms of appointment of his cabinet members? What has the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, done in terms of political appointments? How many of the African talent has he engaged strategically in very important aspects or ministries or lifelines of Nigeria to ensure that such talent does not exit, does not leave the shores of Africa precisely Nigeria. What has he done? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the current and the sitting minister of petroleum, just like in the administration of his predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari. Muhammadu Buhari was the minister of petroleum for 8 consecutive years. Whether he completed that very 4 years by proxy, I'm not in position to say, but he was known. He was recognized by all the official documents of NNPC in the oil and gas industry as the minister of petroleum for 8 years, president for 8 years, minister of petroleum for 8 years. Still, there is no functioning refinery in Nigeria that can be able to refine enough quantity of petroleum products for the consumption of the Nigerian citizens, for local consumptions, much less exportation. Minister of Petroleum for 8 consecutive years. Now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has stepped into the same office as the Minister of Petroleum of Nigeria. He is the Minister of Petroleum. What are the strategic plans and engagement he's trying to bring forward in the oil and gas industry in order to bring an end to the fuel scarcities and hike in fuel price, to the benefit and the advantage of all and sundry in this part of the world? As the president and the minister of petroleum, what are his economic policies? What are his strategic engagement of the African talents, Nigerians who are highly talented, technocrats, experts in the oil and gas industry? What are his strategic engagements in finance, in infrastructure, in agriculture, in power sector? What are the strategic engagements that the president of Nigeria, who is now calling on the rest of the African leaders to engage strategically in addressing the mass exodus of African talents, I'm bringing it without further ado to the screen so that we can see what he has to say in details. I am Pastor Maxwell Nawahe. Please make sure you subscribe to this channel on Engine Speak. Also subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Maxwell Nawahe. Follow me on TikTok at Maxwell Nawahe, on Instagram, Maxwell Nawahe, on X at Maxwell Nawahe, on Facebook, Maxwell Nawahe. I bring it to the screen to you. That is the president of Nigeria talking to the fellow African leaders. The president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has urged fellow African leaders to engage in strategic and deliberate efforts in addressing the mass exodus of skills and talents from the continent. Of skills and talent from the continent. The president, who spoke at a dinner held in his honor at the People's Palace in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, Wednesday night, stressed that research and development must be encouraged with the provision of appropriate rewards. with provision of appropriate rewards. In other words, whatever is the outcome of a research that benefits the continent or the country should be rewarded in whatever terms in order to encourage the furtherance or the replication of similar researches to the advantage of the continent, which is very good. In his words, why are we complaining about healthcare problems if our doctors cannot have a home in our continent? If our nurses are faced with destitution, and if our judicial system is archaic? He emphasized that development in Africa will begin when the continent begins to look inwards for solutions to its problems. Now, the question is this: how is Nigeria doing about this? How far? What is the scorecard? When he said that the development in Africa will begin when the continent begins to look inwards for solutions to its problems. How far has Nigeria been looking inwards? Inwards for solutions to its problems. That is the question. This question comes back to the president of Nigeria, who is speaking to his fellow African leaders. We know what happened to the Aliko Dangote refinery. That is one of the problems in this part of the continent, in Nigeria. Issue of dysfunctional, unfunctional, moribund refineries. And the very African talent and highly skilled business mogul, Aliko Dangote, decided to build a multi-billion-dollar refinery, but there was sabotage. Even under the administration, or indeed very administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that very refinery was sabotaged. We heard in the news that he has given the green light to supply crude to the Aliko Dangote multi-billion-dollar refinery. But the question is this: how long is it going to take before that takes effect? Looking inwards to solve the African problems by the Africans. That is his suggestion, which is quite in place. And the question is, how long and how far has he been involved in looking inwards, both as the former governor of Lagos State and a senator representing his own senatorial district for so many years in Lagos State, and now the president of Nigeria? Has he been looking inwards for the solutions to the problems of Nigeria? According to him, tribalism has no place in our nation or region. We have to strengthen the continent, cultivate and maintain peace together, and help one another. We have to develop our resources for our progress, find solutions among ourselves, and focus incisively on research and development, and reward those research and development programs. We must bring out the result ourselves. We must not outsource them or sell them out. This is very beautiful words put together by the president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And the question still comes back to him. If he should be judged by his own word, what will be the outcome? Words are easier said than done. The president acknowledged that there are millions of African youths yearning for progress, just like we saw about 10 days ago in the End Bad Governance protest, nationwide protest across Nigeria. The youths are yearning for progress in the continent, in education, in health sector, in infrastructure, in different aspects, in policies, people-oriented and all-inclusive policies. In his words, to international organizations, we are partners. We will continue to be partners, but we must implement more of the results of the research established here. We have many youths to take care of, millions yearning for progress. He speaks as if he actually has the best interest of the youth at heart. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm just afraid that he doesn't. He doesn't. He has not exemplified it for the past 1 year of his administration. He has not. He continued, our gathering here is a significant milestone in the history of Africa, particularly for West and Central Africa, between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Republic of Equatorial Guinea. I am happy to hear very deep thoughts coming from my brother, the president of Equatorial Guinea, concerning Africa. Africa must solve its own problems. We have had this same rhetoric over decades without concrete plans on ground to make it a reality. We have not. We've not seen it. For the world, Africa is wretched and ragged, full of conflicts. We say no. Peace, stability, and democracy are the way forward for our collective and progressive development. Very beautiful words put together. But coming back to Nigeria, what is the president of Nigeria that is so speaking so glowingly in this very conference or in this very presidential dinner held in his honor at Equatorial Guinea, Malabo? What has he done to bring about peace, stability, and democracy in Nigeria? We have agreed on what we have agreed that we have agreed on with President Basogo. Because we continue to peace and stability throughout the continent. Some of our other brothers in shackles are still there at each other's throats. We will both work together and do whatever is possible to promote peace. Now, the question comes back to him. What is he doing to promote peace in the Southeast with regards to the release of Nnamdi Kanu? We were told charity begins at home. So we were told charity begins at home. He has but dressed the need to ensure peace and stability in the African continent. What has he done to exemplify what he is actually promulgating in this very fora? What has he done? What concrete, practical, genuine, transparent measures has he taken to ensure peace and stability in the Southeast Nigeria, much less Africa as a whole? What has the president of Nigeria done? You know, that's the problem with most of our leaders. They will just speak so glowingly, so convincingly, so well articulated. They will express a goodwill that is fake and plastic in nature, trying to buy or to woo support, to gather support to themselves for their personal and selfish or political interest or ambition or advancement. That has been the problem. It has not been in the talking. It has not been in beautiful policies, in beautiful conferences or speeches, press statements. It has not been the case. We have good orators and good rhetorics that Nigerians or the African leaders can tell. They go back to, they recycle it often and on, every day, every time, every week, every month, every administration, every leadership. And they will come up with the same rhetorics. Do the talk. Do the talk. Let's see the result. He is preaching peace and stability on the continent, but he is holding to ransom, he is holding hostage a freedom fighter, a prisoner of conscience, in the person of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, in the DSS dungeon in Abuja, Nigeria. Despite all calls, both from ECOWAS, both from AU, both from the United Nations, both from the EU, both from different people, different political influences of national and global politics has made to him to release Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. The president of Nigeria has not acted on court orders. In the domestic court orders, the domestic court orders issued in the favor of Nnamdi Kanu, who is not a Yoruba man, who is an Igbo man, that is held in the DSS dungeon illegally, according to all the courts of Nigeria, both the state high court, federal high court, federal court of appeal, and the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Has the president of Nigeria obeyed the court orders to ensure peace and stability in Nigeria, which will now serve as a very practical example to other fellow African leaders when it comes to his sermon and preaching on peace and stability on the continent. I want to bring it to the screen so that we can summarize the speech of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the African leaders on peace and stability. On peace and stability. On peace and stability. Wow. What a statement. So beautifully put. Now we go to the next paragraph. We continue to promote peace and stability throughout the continent. Some of our brothers in shackles, Nnamdi Kanu is one of them, in shackles, in the DSS dungeon in Abuja, Nigeria, are still there. Yes, 3 years down the line, Nnamdi Kanu is still there in the DSS dungeon in Abuja, Nigeria, under the watch of the president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. At each other's throat, we will both work together and do whatever is possible to promote peace. Okay. What we are seeing in certain parts of the continent and areas of the Sahel is not pleasant for our today and not promising for our tomorrow. We have to work together to make peace the focus of our development. The focus of our development. That is what the president of Nigeria is saying. We have to work together to make peace the focus of our development. In other words, without peace, we cannot develop to compete very, very favorably with our counterparts in other continents of the world. I hope he truly understands the very beautiful statement or speech that he made at Equatorial Guinea and come back home and give that very instruction to the Attorney General of the Federation to discuss the modernities to release Nnamdi Kanu unconditionally to begin with, in order to ensure peace and stability in the southeast region of the country. He continued, without peace, we cannot have development. Our development is not that we do not understand what to do. Our development is not that we do not. Okay, our problem is not that we do not understand what to do. We identify them and we understand what to do. Our problem is how and when we should do them. How could this continue to be your problem, plaguing you from generation to generation? Why? It is hypocrisy. It's not a problem. It is hypocrisy. It is lack of political will to do what is right for the interest of the people you govern, the people you lead, the people you lead, your own people, your fellow citizens that you lead. That's the problem. In his words, and I repeat, quoting him verbatim, our problem is not that we do not understand what to do. Yes, they understand what to do. They understand that it is important that you do what the court has asked you to do, both when it is favorable to you or not. Your problem is not that you don't understand what to do with the case of Nnamdi Kanu. Your problem is not that you don't understand that you need to allow him to go unconditionally, just like Sunday Igboho has been released unconditionally. And that is a confession in form of a statement coming from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I quote him again. Our problem is not that we do not understand what to do. We identify them and we understand what to do. We understand that it is imperative and it is long overdue that Nnamdi Kanu regains his freedom. We understand it is important to make sure there is functional refinery. Port Harcourt refinery, Warri refinery, the seaport in the southeastern part of the country that have been moribund over decades. We understand what to do. We identify them. We know that it is important to ensure the equal distribution of the national wealth. We understand it very well. We know what to do. We identify them and we understand them. He continued, our problem is how and when to do them, which is hypocrisy. If a problem is urgent, you understand that you have to address it urgently. If a problem needs a long-term measures to solve, a short-term measures to solve, you have the best brains to be assembled together in order to provide solution on what to do in that regard. But as hypocritical as our leaders have been, they pretend that they don't know how and when to do what they're supposed to do. So why did you come out campaigning for elections? Why did you then come out campaigning to be elected, to become the president of Nigeria, to become the governor of one of the states in the country? Why did you come out campaigning to become the senator, representing your senatorial district, to become the minister for this, minister for that, to be whatever position you are holding now? You worked so hard to come to that position politically. Why did you then come out to campaign for the 2023 presidential election, campaign for the vote of Nigerians, when you have a problem that you don't know how and when to do what you're supposed to do? Why did you then come out? Why didn't they say Emelokon? Why did you then champion that very slogan, Emelokon? Why did you then position yourself to clinch power? Why did you then promise in your electioneering campaigns, the manifestos and all the things you said you are going to do, how you are going to create demand and supply, or demand and consumption, in his own words? And then you turn around in less than 2 years to claim that you inherited a dilapidated economy from your predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari, who you worked hand in hand with for the period of 8 years of his administration as the APC chieftain. The hypocrisy is benumbing. The hypocrisy of our leaders is quite astonishing. It is quite astonishing, quite legendary. That is what he said. Our problem is not that we don't identify or understand what our problems are or what to do. In his own words, I'm trying to quote him verbatim again for those that are just joining us. But our problem is how and when to do what we should do. I say the time is now. We had better roll up our sleeves, put on our knickers, and move strongly for the peace and stability of our continent. That's what is said. And I'm proceeding towards the end of this very and but to cling to each other. This is at the end of this very broadcast today, and I want to thank you for watching. I am Pastor Maxwell Nabuhe. Thank you very much and see you some other time with other important topic or issues or new items, developing stories that will help us to know what is actually going on within the polity of the country. Thank you, and bye bye from here. God bless you.